There's a psychological trick happening right now in your relationships, and honestly, you're probably on the losing end of it. You text back immediately. You rearrange your schedule. You're always there when they call. You think you're being a good friend, a devoted partner, a caring person. But here's the brutal truth nobody wants to tell you. Your constant availability is making you invisible. Think about it for a moment. When was the last time you truly valued something you could have any time? The restaurant with no wait? The friend who drops everything every single time? The person who's always available? We live in a world obsessed with abundance, yet it's scarcity that drives desire. It's scarcity that creates value. And whether you realize it or not, you've been giving yourself away so freely that you've become the human equivalent of free Wi-Fi, convenient, expected, and completely taken for granted. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the people who are hardest to reach are often the most sought after, why absence amplifies attraction, and how you can reclaim your power by strategically withdrawing your endless availability. You'll learn the psychology behind the scarcity effect, see real examples of it transforming relationships, and walk away with actionable steps to make yourself valued again. But here's my promise to you. Don't skip any part of this video. I know you're busy. I know your attention is pulled in 17 different directions. If you're in a rush, watch at 2 times speed. But skipping sections would be like taking half your medication and wondering why you're still sick. Every piece builds on the last. Every section reveals another layer. This isn't just information. This is a complete transformation of how you show up in every relationship in your life. Let's begin. Right now, there's an epidemic spreading through our relationships, and most people don't even know they're infected. It starts innocently enough. You care about people. You want to be there for them. You pride yourself on being reliable, responsive, present. When someone needs you, you show up. When they text, you respond. When they call, you answer. You've been taught that this is what good people do. This is what love looks like. This is what friendship means. But somewhere along the way, something shifts. They stop asking how you're doing. They reach out only when they need something. Your calls go to voicemail, but they expect you to pick up on the first ring. They cancel plans without guilt, but they're hurt if you're not available. Your birthday gets a happy birthday text at 11:47 p.m., but you organized a surprise party for theirs. You've become the emotional equivalent of a 24-hour convenience store. Open all night, always in stock, utterly unremarkable. And here's what really stings. The moment you become consistently available, you become forgettable. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about manipulation. This is about understanding a fundamental principle of human psychology that governs everything from economics to romance, from friendship to professional success. It's called the scarcity effect. And it's the reason why the people who value you least are often the ones you're most available to. Let me tell you about Marcus and James, 2 friends, both successful, both charismatic, both genuinely good people. But their approach to relationships couldn't have been more different. Marcus was the guy everyone loved. He'd drop everything to help you move apartments. He'd drive across town at midnight because you had a crisis. He checked in constantly, remembered every detail you'd ever shared, made plans weeks in advance and never ever cancelled. He was loyal, generous, present. The perfect friend, right? James, on the other hand, was harder to pin down. He traveled for work. He had boundaries around his time. When you texted him, you might get a response in an hour, or you might get one 3 days later with, "Crazy week, let's catch up soon." He'd show up to some events, miss others. When he made plans, sometimes he'd cancel last minute. Not rudely, just his life was full. You were in it, but you weren't the center of it. Here's what happened over 5 years. Marcus found himself exhausted. The people he was most available to called him less and less. When they did reach out, it was always because they needed something. His calendar was full of plans that others frequently cancelled or rescheduled. He started to notice a pattern. The more he gave, the less people appreciated it. He felt used, invisible, resentful. He'd built his entire social identity on being the reliable one, and somehow he'd become the one people forgot about. James. His calendar was actually fuller. People tried harder to make time with him work. When he showed up, people were genuinely excited to see him. His advice was sought after. His presence at events made them feel special. When he said yes, it meant something. When he made time for you, you felt chosen. Same city, same social circles. Two completely different experiences. The difference, scarcity. Marcus had made himself abundantly available. James, whether consciously or not, had made himself scarce, and in doing so, he'd made himself valuable. Now, before you think this is about being flaky or selfish, stay with me. Because the lesson here isn't about treating people badly, it's about understanding value, respect, and the psychological triggers that govern human connection. If you've ever been in Marcus's position, and if you're watching this video, you probably have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Comment below if you've experienced this. You'll help others feel less alone. Let's talk about why this happens. Why does scarcity create value? In 1975, psychologist Stephen Warshall conducted a now famous experiment. He put participants in a room and offered them cookies from two jars. One jar had 10 cookies, the other had 2. The cookies were identical. Same brand, same flavor, same everything. But when participants were asked to rate the cookies, those from the jar with only 2 cookies were rated as more desirable, more valuable, and even better tasting. The cookies were exactly the same. But scarcity created perceived value. This principle doesn't just apply to cookies, it applies to everything we desire. Limited edition sneakers, houses in competitive markets, concert tickets that sell out, and yes, people. When something is readily available, our brains categorize it as less valuable. It's a survival mechanism wired into us from millions of years of evolution. Resources that were scarce, water in a drought, food in winter, mates in a small tribe, required more effort to obtain and were therefore more precious. Your brain still operates on this ancient programming. When you're always available, always responsive, always there, you trigger the same psychological response as those 10 cookies in the jar. Abundant, common, nice to have but not essential. But when you're selective with your time, when your attention is harder to earn, when your presence is not guaranteed, you become the 2 cookies. Rare, valuable, worth pursuing. The Stoic philosophers understood this thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. The external thing, your availability, your estimate of it, that you must always be accessible to be valued. You have the power to revoke that belief right now." In Eastern philosophy, there's a concept called Wu Wei, effortless action, or strategic non-action. It's not about doing nothing. It's about not forcing, not overextending, not chasing. It's about creating space for things to come to you naturally. When you stop pushing so hard, when you stop making yourself endlessly available, you create a vacuum. And nature abhors a vacuum. The space you create by pulling back will draw people toward you more powerfully than any amount of constant availability ever could. And here's where it gets interesting. Research from the field of behavioral economics shows that people value what they work for. Robert Cialdini, in his groundbreaking book Influence, identified commitment and consistency as one of the 6 principles of persuasion. When people invest effort, time, or energy into something or someone, they psychologically increase its value to justify their investment. When you're always available, you require no effort, no investment, no pursuit. When you're scarce, you require effort, and that effort transforms into perceived value. Your story in the comments might be exactly what someone needs to hear. Have you ever noticed how your value changed when you stopped being so available? Share it below. Let's get specific about what this looks like in real relationships. The abundant person texts back within minutes, every time, rearranges their schedule to accommodate others, rarely says no, even when overwhelmed, initiates contact 90% of the time. apologizes for not being available even when they have legitimate reasons, feels guilty for having boundaries, anxiously waits for responses from others, plans their life around other people's availability. The result gets taken for granted, receives less effort from others, their time is valued less than others' time, they feel resentful but don't know why, they're often the backup plan, their emotional needs go unmet, they feel exhausted, drained, invisible. The scarce person responds when they have genuine time and attention to give, maintains their commitments to themselves first, says no without over-explaining, lets others initiate sometimes, doesn't apologize for having a full life, has clear boundaries without guilt, doesn't anxiously check their phone, has their own priorities and relationships fit around them. The result, people prioritize them, receives more effort, more pursuit. Their time is treated as valuable. They feel respected and sought after. They're the first choice, not the backup. Their needs are considered and met. They feel energized, valued, seen. Look at these two lists. Really take a moment and look at them. Which person are you? Be honest with yourself, and perhaps even more importantly, which person do the people in your life value more? Now, I want to make something clear. This isn't about being cold. It's not about being distant or playing hard to get in some manipulative way. It's about recognizing that, well, constant availability doesn't actually create connection. It creates complacency. So think about the relationships in your life right now. The people you drop everything for, do they drop everything for you? The ones whose calls you always answer, do they always answer yours? The friends you make yourself available to, do they make themselves available to you? If the answer is no, then honestly, you're not being valued. You're being used. And the tragedy is you've actually trained them to treat you this way by never making them work for your attention, your time, your presence. Here's a hard truth. People don't value what they don't earn. Your endless availability hasn't made them love you more. It's made them respect you less. So how do you fix this? How do you go from being taken for granted to being genuinely valued? Here are the practical, actionable steps to implement strategic scarcity in your relationships. So, let's talk about creating response delays. It's important to stop texting back immediately every single time. Now, I'm not suggesting you ignore people for days on end. Rather, it's about allowing a natural space to exist between communications. If someone texts you while you're working, finishing that work before responding isn't rude. It's simply having boundaries. Similarly, if they call while you're at the gym, it's perfectly okay to call back after your workout. The key here is to respond when you have genuine attention to give, not just because your phone buzzed. This approach does two important things. First, it trains people to understand that your attention is valuable and comes when you're truly present, not just as a reflex. Second, it encourages you to live your own life, instead of constantly being on call for everyone else's. 2. Honor your own plans. Stop rearranging your life for others when they wouldn't do the same for you. You have plans to read? That's a real plan. You were going to the gym? That's a real commitment. You blocked off time to rest? That's as valid as any meeting. When someone asks if you're free, and you already have plans, even if those plans are with yourself, the answer is, I already have plans, but I'm free at another time. Not, I was just going to read, but I can do that later. Not, I was going to rest, but it's fine. Your plans have value. Treat them like they do. 3. Let others initiate sometimes. If you're always the one reaching out, stop. Just stop. I know this feels terrifying. You worry the relationship will die. You fear they'll forget about you. But here's what you're missing. If a relationship only exists because you maintain it, it's not a real relationship. It's a one-sided arrangement where you're doing all the emotional labor. Let there be silence, let there be space, see who fills it. The people who value you will reach out. The people who don't, well, now you know. And that knowledge, as painful as it might be, is valuable. It tells you where to invest your energy. 4. Build a full life. This is the most important one, and here's why. You can't fake scarcity. If you're sitting at home staring at your phone, desperately wanting someone to text you, you're not scarce. You're just pretending to be. Real scarcity comes from having a life so full, so rich, so engaging that you genuinely don't have time to be constantly available. Pursue your goals, develop your skills, invest in your hobbies, build your career, strengthen your body, expand your mind, create, learn, grow. When your life is genuinely full, your scarcity isn't a strategy, it's a reality, and people feel that authenticity. 5. Get comfortable with saying no. This is where most people struggle. You've been conditioned to believe that saying no makes you selfish, difficult, uncaring. But here's the truth. Every yes to someone else, when you want to say no, is a no to yourself. Practice saying, "I can't make that work," or "that doesn't work for me," without explaining, justifying, or apologizing. You don't owe anyone an explanation for having boundaries. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. You'll worry about how they'll react, but notice